that might be the best can open we've had in a few episodes. It was very full.
So you got the resonance, baby.
Yeah.
We'll get into some resonance later, but yeah, it's a little carbonation. But we're back. A little bit more regularity now in between episodes. Just did Bishop's last week, so if you haven't checked that out, definitely check it out. But back again with another good friend of ours that we'll introduce here in a second. But we're on the home stretch for fall band, and it's finally getting cold in Kentucky. Today it was like a high of 50 or something like that.
Yeah, it was wet outside in Louisville and like 52 degrees. It
definitely not good for the old warm drum hands, but
not
trying
at all.
To play in 30-degree weather.
I don't know about you. I'm ready for high school season to be over. At least outdoor. I'm ready for outdoor to be over.
I feel you, man.
I want weekends back. But that's enough of that. Welcome, everyone, to the Aged Out podcast. As always, I'm one of your hosts, Mike Fantini, and with me is
Evan Worrell.
And we'd really appreciate it if you hit the subscribe button on YouTube, like the video, drop a comment if you want to say anything, subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, like the Facebook, follow us on Instagram, all the usual social media spiel. And let's just get to it.
Yeah, this guy that we got on, Mike and I both marched with, but I was fortunate to be able to spend an entire summer getting to know him, drumming with him, going through the trials and tribulations that are drum corps, especially the season that we were both there. But without any further ado, we welcome Frank Cummings. Do you want to be called Frank or Frankie? I've always called you Frankie.
I think whatever rolls off the tongue is what's appropriate for the individual.
I'm probably going to go with Frankie.
I've always called you Frankie, but yeah, man, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, guys. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, so Frankie has some unique experience too that we'll dive into as we go along, which I'm sure will come up pretty organically. But we'll kind of roll out the carpet for you, man. Just tell us a little bit about how you got into like either band or percussion or drumming and drumline, your kind of exposures, the things that I guess enticed you and led you to go down that road that we've all kind of crossed paths with.
Yeah, man. Where do I even begin? So I don't know if this is completely true or not. I haven't confirmed it, but I kind of recall, hearing this as I was growing up. But apparently, there was a music store across the street from the hospital I was born in, and the day I was born, my dad went across the street and bought this beautiful blue sparkle concert snare drum for me, and which is pretty random considering the fact that none of my parents hardly have any musical background. Like I know my mom's dad, he was a singer, guitar player in a band, but my dad has no musical background, so it's kind of strange to like think back on it now that he even had that idea to begin with. But
especially with like a kid, like, is that a baby?
Yeah, exactly.
Go home, baby.
It's 3:00 in the morning.
Got kiss a pee.
Already got breaking in the Chappelle references. All right, we're going down a good road. All right, anyway,
continue.
Yeah, so fast forward, I have sisters that are a lot older than I am, and one of them was in marching band. She played saxophone, she did color guard, and she had some cool friends when I was growing up, and I always kind of looked up to them. And I remember before I even joined concert band, which started in 4th grade where I grew up, I would just bust out that concert snare drum, and like her drumline friends would be teaching me their cadence, which was like not very hard, obviously, but I was pretty naturally into it from the beginning. So I honestly I remember like I couldn't wait to get into it, sign up for it in 4th grade. So I did that, grew up through the concert band program. Fast forward to 7th grade, that's when they started to it was a very small program, so they let younger kids be in the high school program. So when I was in 7th grade, I joined marching band. I played rack. I played a little bit of Glock. In 8th grade, played some bass one, baby.
Downbeats for days.
Yeah, exactly. And then started playing snare drum my freshman year. Honestly, I probably would have played snare drum in 7th or 8th grade, but I was too small to carry a drum.
We actually, at the school I
Yeah,
teach at, we actually have a kid like that right now, just because he's been taking lessons for a long time, but he's like 4'9" and weighs 110 pounds. So it's like, well, this really isn't going to work.
Yeah, I didn't break into the triple digits with my weight until high school.
Jeez.
If that gives you an idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can relate to that. I was pretty small, so.
Yeah, I was always a short guy, skinny guy, but yeah. So I got into that. I'm left-handed, so that was just always kind of a natural one-up, I guess you could say.
Is that really an advantage?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say so.
Really?
Yeah. Like, I mean, sure, everything's off the right, but I mean, it happened pretty fast where I got used to the whole grip and the turning the doorknob idea. Like, it really.
That makes sense. No, that makes sense.
Yeah, it didn't take too much like coordination problems, you know.
Well, I guess too, like if you write left-handed, the traditional grip isn't too far off from like how you hold a pencil.
Exactly.
If you're thinking like in the left hand, so I mean that makes sense.
True.
I literally hold a pencil like I hold a drumstick.
I love that. Yeah, absolutely. And you're talking about small program. I think that's great too, just because I don't know. I think sometimes kids get in the mindset that they see these big like national programs that are on the internet or YouTube or Chino Hills and Bands of America finalists, but the program I was at definitely wasn't that. And you're from Carneys Point, correct? New Jersey?
Yeah. Yes, Carneys Point, New Jersey. Nailed it.
So, which is on the west coast of New Jersey, near Philly and Newark or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Southwest New Jersey.
There's a west coast of New Jersey?
Well, like the west coast of this. There's like a river that runs up the
middle
of there.
There's
okay,
a
fair
river.
enough. River
There's
coast.
a river
All right.
that crosses between New Jersey and Delaware. Like where I grew up, I could almost hit Wilmington, Delaware with a rock.
Okay.
Nice.
I was just thinking like the ocean is to the east, and you hear like, all right, whatever. Go on.
No, I'm good at geographies. I'm just kidding. I Googled that stuff earlier.
Yeah,
anyway,
you studied it.
Yeah, man, prepared for this podcast. But anyway, so small town, came from a small school, getting into the marching band. Where would you say, I guess, that you got your knowledge or your beginner knowledge and stuff from?
Well, my freshman year of high school, we had a really good friend of our band director who came from Crossman, University of Delaware, you know, that whole kind of family over there. And he had a friend, his name is Mike Windish. He started teaching my drum line my freshman year, and it really took off from there. The guy was a mechanical genius. I mean, you kind of learn as a teacher, like what kids need compliments, what kids don't, etc. And he kind of saw like how interested I was in it from the beginning, and that's when he decided I will literally never give this kid a compliment once. Like, I mean, and he never did, but he always kind of like poked the bear in a way where it was very inspiring for me. You know, I was, you know, I mean, you can ask my parents. I was living and breathing on my practice pad in my room from the beginning, all because of that guy. So Mike Windish, and we'll get into it later, but I teach with him now still, which is really awesome. So Mike Windish comes from, like I said, the University of Delaware, in which he still teaches at the University of Delaware, so that's cool. But he was marching Reading Buccaneers back in those days, and which is a DCA corps, which is all age. And you know, at that point, I I'd only heard about what they called it back then was junior corps, which is DCI. Well, you know, it's DCI now.
Okay.
And yeah, exactly. And so I think I was 16, started my junior year of high school, and you know, I mean, at that point, I had already auditioned for Crossman, the cadets, because you know, luckily they were hosting their audition camps at my high school, which was really convenient.
That's super convenient.
Jeez.
Yeah, I remember standing in like the food line with this woman, and she was from England, and she was like, "Where are you from?" And I'm like, "Here." And like, I remember the camp getting over, and I like called my mom to come pick me up.
What year was that?
That was in 2007 for the cadets. You were
For
there.
for the summer of
Weren't you
08?
there? No, I think it was for the summer of 07.
I wouldn't have been there for the
That
summer
was
of
when you went to
07.
Glassman, right?
I was there for the summer of 08. So I was there in 2007 auditioning for the summer of 08. But I want to say that ours were like in Camden, but maybe it's not. Maybe it wasn't Camden.
Okay. That sounds like Jersey Surf.
But yeah, in 2007, I auditioned at Bluecoats first, and that for the summer of 2007, I went to Bluecoats, and that was very quickly apparent that I was not going to go there. And then I went to Glassman, and then maybe could have worked out, but the whole G West thing turned me off pretty hardcore because there was no running water. But anyway,
That place blew.
so that's cool. That's pretty convenient then that you were there and your local town. Like, oh, ride my bike to. I could probably ride your bike if it wasn't like freezing cold in November, but.
Yeah. I remember I think our football team made the playoffs that year, and I remember our marching band was like getting on the bus to go to a football game that Friday night, and I remember standing there like with my duffel bag and my sleeping bag, like just scared out of my mind, like, well, I guess I'm about to do this drum corps camp. And I just like watched all my friends leave on the bus, and I remember like, man, I wish I was going with them right now, but you know, wouldn't be where I am today if I didn't go to that camp and completely make a fool out of myself.
I feel like that's the story for a lot of people when they first audition for drum corps. Like, you go somewhere you have no business going to just because you're oblivious to how the activity really works and everything. And you just get, like, completely humbled or just, like, put in your place, I guess is a good way to put it. Like, the reality check.
Yeah, man,
Well,
absolutely.
I think, too, there's just, like, anytime, and this got to be, like, I guess, a lesson for any kid that's listening that hasn't auditioned. Like, everybody's first audition is nerve-wracking, I think, even if you have all the experience in the world, just because you don't know what to expect. It's something new. It's a change. Even if you're fortunate enough to make it into a group at your very first audition, every audition you go to thereafter is just that much more comfortable because you have experience going through the audition process and knowing what that is. Because everybody pretty much does it in some type of similar fashion, whether it's drum corps or WGI or high school. You'll play with the group. Maybe you'll do an individual audition. You might do a visual audition. Like, it's pretty – they want to see all those things. So the more you audition, the more experience you get auditioning and the experience you get at, like, showcasing yourself in a better fashion, I would say.
It's definitely a skill you have to develop. You have to learn how to audition for sure. And then you get those people that, but you also have the other end of the spectrum where you have some people that audition really well. But, like, I don't know, we've all heard about those people that I feel like look really good in auditions and then just don't pan out once the season starts. They make it and stuff. But then you have other people that audition terribly, get in still, whether through networking or they're good enough still, and they end up being a superstar all summer. So it's a give and take a little bit, and you still definitely have to get comfortable with the individual audition part. At least for me, that was the most nerve-wracking, is the individual, where you're like shaking in your boots, your sound quality sucks, your rhythms are terrible. Like, for me, that was the biggest learning curve.
Yeah, man, I remember breaking in front of Tom Ungst in my individual audition, and I went to like start over again, and he just like held his hand up. He was like, "No, I got it, dude. It's all good." And he just like I don't know, whatever alleviated the situation and got me out of there.
I love that.
Uh,
Nice.
But that's a great point, Fantini, you bring up. Like, I'm probably skipping a million steps here, but everybody probably knows who Jay Noah is by now, also known as Sam Fleming. He marches GMU. He's marched Crown the past 3 summers. He just aged out as the section leader. And, I think back to 2017. I remember after the November camp, as far as my list went, he was like 13th or 14th. And, just because he wasn't there yet, I think he like just started drumming for like 2 or 3 years at that point. And man, he came back in December and he was easily number 9 or 8. He was in there.
Nice.
Yeah. Persevered. Went home. And that's if you have a bad audition, you can either take it one of 2 ways. Like, you can accept it and just be like, oh man, that wasn't good. Or you can like fight back and be like, nah, I didn't represent myself the way I know I can. So I need to give another opportunity and like kind of go back and put it in their face. So that kind of like that grit or that mentality behind it. But yeah, we'll come back to the audition stuff because I want to pick your brain on that some more too.
Cool.
So made it through the high school.
Made it through the high school.
No, it's all good. Audition for cadets.
Yep, audition for cadets for the 2007 season. And then in 2008 is when, I found out about the Reading Buccaneers. And I got a new band director that year, and she came from the Bushwhackers, which is another DCA corps. And, she had talked me into going there at first, and basically was telling me to be a shoo-in for me. But then I remember Mike Windish, my drum tech, convinced me to go to Reading, and I did that, and I ended up making it, and got my first drum corps experience. So they call us the Weekend Warriors.
The Weekend Warriors, yeah. So yeah. I feel like DCA, from my perspective and kind of the Midwest Kentucky area here, is very much more heavily prevalent in the East Coast, that Northeast, like down the coast and all that, as far as the number of groups and the saturation from the location standpoint. I mean, you got like the Buccaneers, I'm sure, like, was it Connecticut Hurricanes? I'm assuming Bushwhackers are up there somewhere. And then like Carolina Gold down that area. So kind of explain, I guess, maybe for some people who are like, DCA, what's the setup? You just called them the Weekend Warriors. A lot of them rehearse on the weekends only. I think most of them rehearse on the weekends only. Is that right?
Yeah, that is right. So it's like WGI. If you have experience with that, you go in Friday night. You have a rehearsal that is just one block, and then it's all day Saturday, and then you rehearse Sunday until about 4 or 5 o'clock, and then you head home and do your whole Monday through Friday routine.
I feel like the DCA value is severely underrated, especially for younger kids trying to get some experience, just get better, like build up the chops. I think if there were more DCA corps around the country, it would be much more beneficial for kids to get that experience, especially when I think back to like myself. And one of the big things that deterred me from maybe marching Glassman in 2007, not that I got offered a contract, but if I had got to that point, was the fact that I didn't feel like I was mentally ready to just be gone as a junior in high school for 80 to 90 straight days. I don't think I was mentally ready for that. So I feel like that's a good like stepping stone for kids, if you have DCA corps around you, to just get experience drumming with some people that are older, some people are the same age, but learning from somebody else.
Absolutely. I mean, it's definitely good for those younger people. Like I remember I wanted to quit before the summer even started. Like I made the drum line. We did our like preview show in the spring, and but before that, I remember thinking like, I kind of feel like I don't have like my life anymore. I had a girlfriend at the time. I wanted to play golf a bunch, and I just remember like, wow, I'm like not hanging out with my friends on the weekends anymore. What's going on? And so I did actually end up quitting, like right before the summer started. And normally like any other group you would do that with, they would just be like, okay, whatever, and they would move on and find somebody else. But for whatever reason, they just kept calling me and emailing me. And, I was a young kid, so I was ignoring all the phone calls and everything. But, I remember
before ghosting was a thing.
Yeah, exactly. And my Mike Windish, we had auditions for my high school drumline for the next fall. And I remember he stopped rehearsal early and just to talk to me for like the last hour. And he basically just told me how stupid I was. He was like, you're not going to be in the PGA. I don't know why you're like looking at that or whatever. He was like, but you could be in the Cavaliers or the Cadets or Vanguard or whatever you want. He was like, so, I mean, you just need to like wake up and do this thing. And they want you to come back. And I was like, all right, yeah. And I like called him up and I was super embarrassed about the whole thing, obviously. But, that blew over pretty quickly. And, we just kind of got into things. But yeah, definitely good for the young people.
That's a good instructor, man. Like somebody who just like takes the time, like, no, like you're being dumb right now. Like you have this much potential in this. I feel like that's missing a lot in some areas of education, just the brutal honesty of like, no, like what you're doing is a waste of your time. You could be really successful at this. Like, stop like sitting the bench on the baseball team or something.
Yeah. I mean, like, brutal honesty is in short supply anyway, just in society in general right now, but not only in education.
Yeah, and I mean, at the time I was too young to probably realize this, but now that I still work with him and we're still really great friends, and he really is just one of the most raw, genuine, just blunt human beings I know. But he's very wise and man, I'm lucky he's still in my life, to be honest.
Cool.
Well, cool. Well, let's kind of we'll skip through. So we got DCA, Marsh Bucks for 2 years, won 2 gold medals. So you're a champion, world champion. No one can take it away. Then you did Crown 10, 11, and 12. We'll kind of like cram these in here. But what made you go, like, why'd you want to go to Crown versus like somewhere else? Obviously, you said you went to Cadets. I went to Cadets too. But then you, I guess, had a change of heart.
Well, Evan, it was you, man. I watched Crown 2009. I saw you guys live at Giant Stadium. And you can attest to this, but you guys had an amazing run that night. I don't know if you remember.
No, it was a great run, and I've been trying to get the drum tape from Zach Schlicker for 10 years now, but it's literally on a cassette tape. And he's like, oh, dude, he's like, on a cassette tape. I don't know how to get it off. I'm like, dude, just put it in a cassette player and like record a voice memo or something. I don't care if it's like the crappiest quality. But I can remember that show at Meadowlands, which is, I guess, torn down now. But we just, like, ripped it. Also, another kind of weird caveat to that show, but we watched the ending of Full Metal Jacket on the way to that show, which is super depressing movie. So we all got off the bus just, like, super down. But then we had a great run. So, yeah. All right. Sidebar. Saw us at Meadowlands. Saw us at Giant Stadium.
Yeah, saw you at Giant Stadium, and man, that was just my favorite drum corps at that point. I think before that I was just like a huge Cavaliers fan, huge Vanguard fan, but man, once I saw you guys, it was like completely changed from there. It was like the most notes I'd ever seen in my life. It was some of the cleanest playing definitely the cleanest playing I'd ever heard live at that point, and man, I knew that that's where I wanted to be. I had no idea how I was going to get there, but I was going to do it. And, I had some options. At that point, 2010, like cadets were now 10 minutes away from my house versus down the street, and Crown was 10 hours away from my house. And I I round up one other guy to come with me, and we made the 10-hour trek down to Fort Mill to audition for this drum line.
Nice. So we got in there. Frankie and I spent the whole summer together, which was great. Although you were way quieter than at least at first. Had a lot of fun. That summer was a summer of ups and downs, from people getting injured to people having some mental breakdowns. There's all kinds of stuff, but we won't get into that too much. Stayed there, did the 2011, did the Rockstar show, did the 2012 for the Common Man show, which is still, when I watch it, one of the hardest shows I think I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Especially from a visual requirement.
That was 12, right?
Yeah.
Man, speaking of that show, I just remember every show that Bluecoats were at, that Crown was at that summer, I'd go walk up to Frankie, Zach Jancheski, and Andy Kim, and every show you guys were like, God, it's hard. I was like, how's the run? Not there yet. It's hard. Wasn't there a point in spring training where the drill for the drum line was so hard, you guys were down to like 4 snare drummers that could rehearse for a few days?
Oh yeah, it was 5. We had 5 snare drummers out there on the field, and 3 of us on the sideline.
Didn't someone tear his ACL?
Yeah, he actually didn't end up getting back in. That's when we had a vet from 2011. His name was Brandon Lindsay. He came back, and he filled the hole, so that was cool. But yeah, we had like one kid with the flu for a week, so I don't know if that had anything to do with the drill. Yeah. Probably.
Just getting beat down
the drill
so much.
gives you the flu. Thanks, Leon. Yeah.
That's awesome.
So, it was crazy.
Cool. We're just going to keep hammering through because there's some other stuff that I want to get to that's like so you went to UDEL, learned from the Jim Ancona, who's there. Is he still there?
Yeah, he's still there.
Rocking the UDEL stuff. 2013, went to Bluecoats, ended up being the center snare rookie year there. Well, I won't say rookie year, but first year there. That was kind of a unique situation. March United, we all marched X in 12, marched X in 13, marched X in 14. So you were a part of the, I guess, first 2 and maybe only 2 to date rhythm X that have won DA. I don't know if that's correct, but it sounds right in my head, which is like the hands caption, the music caption, both years, 13 and 14. Didn't you guys win PA 13 and 14?
Yes, we did.
Boom. So there it is. I don't know if they've won since.
They have not.
So you're in the only 2. That's kind of wild. That's kind of wild to think about. I would keep track of that.
And not to toot my own horn, but I did split center both of those years. So rhythms and tempo were there.
Yeah.
Well, you were the B center in 14, so.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. Well, I guess you tapped. Saying the center at X is very, I don't know. It's a weird thing. Like, I don't know how you felt about it, but every time that I was there, I was just like, I don't really feel like the section leader. I just feel like I'm just trying to be right all the time. I don't know.
Well, I got to say, like, from 2012 and then 13 and 14, those were like, they were completely 2 different ensembles, man. I don't know what it was, if something like ended up being in the water or something.
I know what it was.
I do too.
Mike different. Scott. That's what it was.
Oh yeah, there you go.
That's why it's different ensemble from the 2 years. Mike Scott was marching in 12, not doing any admin stuff, and then in 13, he started running the show from an administrative side.
And
it was easy. It was easy to be like a great member. It was easy to rehearse well. The show design was really awesome both of those years. Very lucky with that.
You're really filling me with a lot.
Those guys are great.
You're really filling me with a lot of regret here, Frankie.
Oh yeah, couldn't you have marched 13?
I could have marched 13 and 14.
Oh man, you didn't want to go back after seeing us in 13?
At that point, I was done. I was out of college and had a job, and just I was done.
I was married when I marched my age.
I know.
So,
All right, look. Here's the truth of it. Here's the truth of it. After the summer of 2012, I came home. Like, I didn't even do my college drum line at Moorhead. Like, I needed a break. Like, I just didn't want to wear a drum anymore. I needed a break, and
sounds pretty lame to me.
I don't know.
Anyway,
the only time I ever regretted not marching in 13 was when I watched your all's finals run in Dayton, and I was like, wow, I could be out there right now if I wanted to, if I had made that decision. But that was the only time.
Run that week.
What?
I said that was probably the worst run that week, man. I remember we were rehearsing at Lebanon High School, and man, it was like the last 5 run-throughs of that show just all pretty much like felt and sounded the same, man. That was the most special ensemble I was ever a part of.
I watched the run that you guys did at Lebanon before finals day. Like, I watched that one because Infinity was there too. Mike, were you with me?
I think so. Yeah.
But I was there at Lebanon, and Infinity was there because they had the same rehearsal facility, and they watched you guys do that run through too. And I was just like, yeah.
Yeah, man. Very special. Very special year.
Part of it also was 2012 was kind of a shit show, if we're being honest.
Oh yeah.
And that was part of the reason I didn't come back in 13.
I moved from New Jersey. That was the year I moved from New Jersey to Ohio, and that was like right after Thanksgiving. And it was like the entire month of December we didn't rehearse, and it was like, are we about to fold?
We
remember
almost did fold.
Almost.
That almost happened.
Yeah.
We didn't have anywhere to rehearse. Think about it. Rhythm X was almost like a fold in 2012.
That snare line almost
and still
didn't get
somehow
to
like
exist.
figured it out towards the end, but
that snare line
figured it out from
exist.
a playing standpoint, I'll say. But
yeah, I mean,
anyway,
that concrete box was not fun.
Go, buddies.
Anyway, buddies
Moving
carpet.
on. Moving
Frankie
on.
is also the result of a rule that is now in place in WGI. 2014, the Razor's Edge, they did the balancing act, kind of, I guess, emulating slacklining. Is that the right word? Am I using that right? Or like
it was tightrope walking.
Tightrope walk. Okay, because it was based on the French guy who tightrope walked between the World Trade Centers, I believe.
Yeah.
Philippe something,
Philippe
something like that.
Petit.
There it is. But he did the whole tightrope walk emulation across the rack formation that they had. And then after that season, WGI was like, we're probably going to have to put a rule in place that says any prop that someone stands on that is above, I don't know what the height is, but X amount of height, you have to either have 6 feet, you have to either have handrails or you have to be strapped in with like a harness. So now there's a rule about it. So then it's affected groups ever since. So congratulations.
Yeah. Well, that was maybe once in a lifetime effect in a show. 'Cause, I mean, that was the point of it. Like, we wanted you to kind of, lose your breath in the seats for a second,
Yeah, you were up there. You did like the pistol squat or something where you're on like, I think that's what it's called. I'll defer to Chris Gary because he's he's like the physical expert. I'm pretty sure it's a pistol squat where you like bend.
That sounds right. That sounds right.
But anyway, Chris Gary can confirm or deny that. So yeah, I guess that kind of takes us through all the marching history, which you've obviously had a wealth of different instructors and knowledge poured into you. But I guess we'll shift gears now and kind of relay that onto the backside of things. You're obviously doing a lot of teaching now. We can move through those groups and stuff. Doing the William Mason thing, you're teaching, taught at Crossman, Crown, taught at X, now Connexus. Yeah, I guess try to phrase this the right way without sounding like an idiot. But using your background and experience and the instructors you've had and all this and that, how do you, I guess, approach and mold that into what you do today as far as like maybe teaching or philosophies or pedagogy or snare drum or that's a pretty broad question, so we'll have to narrow it down as we go, I guess.
Sure. Yeah, well, I mean, I guess to begin with, I say now as a teacher, one thing I always want to do is stay a step ahead of the rehearsal. Meaning, like, I know the purpose of like what we're doing, obviously, and I know how we're doing it, and I know where we're going from there. But so basically, the structure, like having the structure down before you even start the rehearsal is so important. Like I think one mistake like a lot of people make, going into a rehearsal is, let's just listen to what's going on and let's just kind of wing it and make this thing cleaner. And, to be honest, like I think students are smart enough to kind of feel the like lack of direction in that approach. And from then on, it's like really hard to get people to buy into what you're saying. And, at that point, if everybody's got questions, then, I mean, what are we really doing? So that's a big thing, like being on top of it with the structure of what's going on. Taking inventory.
So when you're,
like, yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, I was going to say, when you're talking about structure, are you talking about just things that you're pre-planning that you want to hit, like sections of a show or concepts or technique, things that you want to work on? Like, I know at the end of this block, we want to get better at this X idea or this X technique, or we want to clean this thing and then we'll move on to the next thing. So you're talking about structure from like I guess like, oh, we're going to work A to B today, or we're going to work concept like downstroke, double strokes into this section of music as it relates to what we're doing in the show.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, like, yeah, we're always, I mean, especially Carolina Crown, we're always breaking stuff down to like their most basic components, at least at like the level that we need to with those guys. I know we're always prioritizing, especially, I listened to your last podcast with Mike Bishop. You guys really dug into the whole like judging thing and the exposures and all that. And they're like, yeah, that's exactly what's important now. Like, you got to make sure that the exposures are the cleanest thing you play. And so, that's the first priority we take at Carolina Crown. Obviously, we go every single day, all day. You can't just work on the same few licks every day. So sometimes you got to go to that like full ensemble stuff and get that up there. But, that's definitely the biggest priority for us. And at that point, you're breaking things down. Like, what are the skill sets? What's the sound quality we're looking for here? Where do our deficiencies like actually lie? And, we're headed in a direction where like the sound and the music is the number one focus. And if I see how like maybe some technical deficiencies are holding us back in that aspect, then we'll address that. But we pretty much take care of the technique at the beginning of the camps and everything, and but at that point you get to move-ins and your hands are what they are. And we need to make the music clean, and we need to make it expressive, and we gotta hit the road running.
Sweet. So that's a good segue. So you're talking about making, or like the hands kind of are what they are. So when you guys are teaching, whether it's, I guess, maybe GMU or Connexus, well, you don't work at GMU, Connexus.
I used to.
You used to. Okay, Connexus or Crown. I know we've talked before with Dan and stuff too before about like technique versus sound quality. So once the kids get moved in and you're in the meat of the season, are you more focused on the way they look or the way they sound? And I kind of asked this with, I guess I know where this is going, but I think this is good for just the overall knowledge listener here.
Always the sound. And if I'm addressing the look, it's because I think it's going to make you sound better.
Right. And I think that was kind of similar. Obviously, it would be similar because you and Dan teach for the same group, and even Travis when he was on here with us. Dang, we're really hitting the Crown staff, but you know what? It's just the way it goes.
Whatever.
But it's just you guys all ended up at the same place, whatever.
Yeah.
And we all happened to march with you.
Yep.
So you're using the functionality of how you're moving through the air and the pathway you're taking with the bead, the wrist, the stick, and all that to help enhance the resonance. Hey, bringing back the old the bottle pop there at the beginning of the episode, the resonance and the ensemble and the balance that you're getting from the drum. Maybe I guess walk through a little bit what you guys teach at Crown as far as what you want them to think about or what you want them to feel or what you want them to listen for or sound like as an individual.
Yeah, sure. I mean, you're gonna get individuals, and I think it took me all the way up to maybe my last 2 seasons in the snare line to actually like make a snare drum sound the way I wanted it to sound, right? So I think at the end of the day, like you just being in the sound is the priority that we're taking. Now, the technique we teach to achieve that is, we all learned this from Josh Brickey, don't overplay your listening point, right? That's like the worst thing you can do. Mm-hmm. So, we talk about balance a lot. We talk about like disappearing in the sound. Don't hear yourself. I want you to listen to everybody else around you. As far as like the technique goes, it really depends on the space of the music. Like sometimes you're playing dotted quarter notes above your head. You're gonna be prepping slow on the upstrokes, and you're gonna be coming down fast. We want you to use the maximum amount of velocity in the space that you're given. If that makes sense. So like if I'm playing 6 tuplets, that fast, at let's say mezzo piano, if I want to play and then I want to play triplet eighth notes at mezzo piano, the velocity behind those triplet eighth notes, it's going to have to be, kind of a little more produced from the player, whereas like the faster stuff is obviously a little more just like let the rhythm speak. Hopefully we're all familiar with that concept. Mm-hmm. So we definitely play into that one pretty heavily. I can think of some very specific, like you got your 2 different strokes that we reference. It's that kind of slow up, fast down. That's like winding up for a pitch if you're like a baseball player, or the throw if you're a quarterback. You got the slow back and then you let it loose. There's also things like a symmetrical stroke where it's like the real fast, like you can think of getting in the tap pyramid. Now my stroke type is moving the same speed up and down, if that makes sense.
No, it does. This sparks a question for me. How much discussion about hand pressure throughout what you're playing do you guys do? Like I know obviously with the kids that I teach in lessons and stuff, I typically tend to preach like even hand pressure no matter what you're playing. Like you're holding the stick, you're never really squeezing it, and that allows it to resonate and produce a more open, warm sound. And I've had a lot of success, even though we all know your hand pressure and fulcrum pressure are going to have to change a little bit. Do you really talk about it a lot, or just kind of let the guys figure it out naturally on their own based on how their hands are put together?
Yeah, I think it's what you kind of just finished off with. Like it depends on the situation. Like obviously you get to like speedo rolls or like fast threes. You're gonna tell people to kind of feel it a little more in the front of the hand. But I mean, for the most part, we look for that neutral hand, where it's like where it all kind of evenly contributes to what's happening. But you always want to kind of feel everything as a rhythm. So I always kind of like relate that pressure to like feeling the rhythm in your hand.
No, that's a good way to put it. That's a good way to put it.
I like that. And I think that neutral approach is just a very holistic way to look at it. That's going to fix a lot of issues to begin with. And then when you get into more depth or maybe higher demand and more mature and experienced players, you can get into a little bit more nuance with the hand pressure, like you're talking about, the front of the hand for certain aspects, or even certain geographies on the drum, whether you're in the middle or you're out towards the guts or the edge at the Gillette, where you have to like account for the higher tension, where you're closer to the tension rods and all that stuff. And that stuff comes with experience and just what level of group you're teaching. But I love the neutral approach. I think that makes the most sense as far as like giving information to kids to get them to play with the right resonance and warmth that you're going for, whether it's Carolina Crown or the high school kids that you're teaching or the college drumline that you're working with or the kid playing drum set. Like it fixes a lot of issues.
For sure.
Yeah. Yeah. You want to feel that implement singing in your hands, you know?
Absolutely. And also another thing that I love that you said was talking about like disappearing in the sound. One thing that I loved, and this is probably something that everybody, maybe especially brass players, if there's any brass players listening to this, are like, no, duh, dude, we talk about that all the time. But that like Matt Harloff and Michael Klesch and them used to talk about at Crown was just like, just play with your trio. Like if you're playing balanced and in tune with your trio, like it's going to be good, which is talking about like the people on each side of you. Of course, if you're on the end, like you only have one person on the side of you, but whatever. I think the concept there speaks volumes, and my wife's probably in the other room like, duh, Evan, everybody knows that because she's a musician, but whatever. Like I heard that one day and I was like, that makes so much sense to me. Like, yeah, just play with the people on each side of you. And if you're perfectly balanced and blended with that, and the person next to you is perfectly balanced and blend with the people on each side of you, then you're going to get that just full ensemble balance that you're going for.
Yeah.
Yep. So my next question on this topic would be, do you ever talk about, I remember Josh was big on this, and I don't know if his teaching philosophy has evolved or changed since we were younger, but the whole 80-20 idea, like 80% is you trying to play the correct dynamics, rhythms, and stickings perfectly in time as an individual, and the last 20% is being aware of the players around you and fitting into that sound or what have you. You know,
I don't ever really think of it as a percent. I know for me at least, if you've never seen me teach, I'm always dancing in front of the drum line. I'm always trying to get the players to feel what they're doing. Because like Tom Hannum, I mean, he's a big advocate for the feel and for the time signature and for what's the purpose of what this music is. So like as a musician, if you know you're always trying to feel what you're doing, but at the same time, like you're always aware of the sound. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I don't really put a number to it, but I remember being in the line and hearing that and kind of utilizing it, and it was effective for sure. But that's not how I approach it.
I feel like I've been leaning more towards what you're talking about, the feel approach as of late. Even when I'm standing in front of like high school kids and they're just playing 8 on a hand, I'm just like, yeah, man, it's just got to let it groove. And they're like, what? Like we're playing 8/8/16. Like, what are you talking about? But there's a backbeat if you feel it, like
for sure.
Like you just gotta make it more to you personally. That way I don't know, it's like an investment thing. Like, yeah, I'm creating music, even though if it's eighth notes, if I'm crescendoing and decrescendoing, you can make that feel a certain way. And you can also feel that too if you're playing those exercises to like something in your iTunes playlist or something on YouTube. You're just like, yeah, like this fits in and it's in the pocket and it feels right and it sounds right. So I'm a big advocate of that.
No, that makes a lot of sense. The whole, you have to feel it. And I don't know, for me, the mathematical part of the 80-20 split always just made sense because I'm a math person and always have been. But from this, I want to leapfrog to something else, just still on the instruction, I guess not bandwagon, but that theme. You give lessons, and this is something that a parent of one of the kids that I teach at the high school I work with asked me about. Do you do online lessons?
Yeah, so I've given like Skype lessons or whatever other sources of media you can use for that. And, I found a lot of flaws in it. Like, one is you have to be there at a very certain time. The quality, the video quality is not going to be there. There's going to be a sound delay. Your internet might be shoddy. So, I kind of like thought about all these things and how to kind of get around them, but still reach these kids from a distance. So what I started doing is there's still video lessons, but everybody's got a smartphone these days. Everybody's got great cameras on their phones. So, what I tell kids to do now is, why don't you pay me for the price of one lesson? And what you'll get from me is, so this lasts an entire week. And so let's say I charge $30, which is like a little less than my live hourly rate. So I charge $30. Kid sends me $30 along with maybe a 5-minute video of him playing through some skill sets. And he took it on his phone and he makes it into an unlisted YouTube video. And so what I do is I watch it, and then I use my phone and I film myself giving a video response that's maybe 3 to 5 minutes long, and it's giving him feedback, and then it's giving him, some direction on where to go from there and what I'd like to see next. So they pay me at the beginning of the week, and then basically what this does is, you have kids who want to be super committed. You have kids who maybe don't want to do hardly any video lessons, but regardless, it's a flat rate. So they pay me the $30. They send me videos. I send them a response for every video they send me. So
that makes way more sense.
I have students who do 1 video a week, 2 videos a week. I have super ambitious students who do 7 to 8 videos a week. So it really depends on them and how much they want to commit to it.
Yeah, that seems like a really good workaround to all the hangups like you were talking about of a Skype lesson. Just not only that, I just feel like if I'm not in the same room with them, I can't effectively show them how to do something. Or you can explain stuff still, but it's hard to put into words for me. Like, it's just really hard to do it as well as if you were in an in-person private lesson. So I've never gotten into them personally, but the way you just said you do them makes a whole lot of sense to me. And I think that's a happy middle ground.
Plus go ahead,
Evan.
Well, I was going to say that's on par with what we do with our kids at like Cap City, or what I know a lot of drum corps do with their in-between their monthly camps, or even a bunch of other WGI groups. You have kids submit video assignments on unlisted YouTube videos, or these secret Facebook groups, or whatever medium that you use, but the video quality is much higher than what you would get through a Skype or a FaceTime or whatever you call it. And there's no delay and between information and this and that. And that way you can really sit down, and like me as a instructor for like Cap City, like I can pick apart what the kids are doing and really watch it multiple times to give more in-depth or correct feedback, to where like, hey, on this measure of this exercise, check this out with your grip pressure or the rhythm that you're doing, check this out. And that makes so much more sense, just because you can really, there's an unlimited amount of time in which you can analyze it and give more accurate feedback, instead of feeling like you're under the gun to say something right away that may be correct, but maybe it's not if you had a second look at it. So that sounds like a much more effective approach, especially if you're talking about over the distance and not a person-to-person, face-to-face type of lesson.
Definitely.
Yeah. Dude, exactly what you said earlier is my favorite part about it. The student is able to go back and back and back however many times he wants to kind of, even if it's just to watch me play, or, if he wants to hear maybe some other comments that I gave him that he might have missed. he always has that chance, or they always have that chance to go back and kind of review. So that's why,
for sure.
I like it.
Yeah, and I'm finding a lot of success in it. I have 4 or 5, I think it's 4 steady students now that, I've been teaching for a few months now with this approach, and, we all both seem to like it.
No,
I think it makes the most sense.
It definitely sounds
I
like
mean,
a good idea.
I've always been kind of skeptical of the like Skype lesson, because I'm just like, how much does somebody really get out of that? Like, how much can you like actually hear through the video quality? But I mean, somebody who takes a recording on their iPhone in 720 and uploads it, or 1080, whatever, 4K. I mean, 4K is crazy now, and they upload it on YouTube. I mean, it's going to be a pretty telling representation of what they're doing from a sound quality. I mean, Mike and I have talked about this before too. Just we watched videos of drum lines on YouTube, and maybe 10 years ago you watched that and you're like, I can't really get a good feel for what they're doing. But in 2019 with like 4K, you can hear the ticks, you can hear what they're doing, and then you see it in person and you're like, yeah, actually the videos that I saw online pretty much told the tale of what that was. But a FaceTime is not really going to lend itself to that type of quality or audio or video in either regard to analyze it.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of the live feed lesson.
All right. Well, there's one last thing I think I want to talk about real quick, because I've been curious about this, and I may have asked you throughout the years about this at some point. But when you marched Bluecoats in 2013, did something happen, like in a good way, at the end of the season? Because I feel like every time I saw you guys in 13, it was like, oh, it was okay. Like, they got some room to make up and hills to climb still to get there. And then all of a sudden, like overnight almost, just like finals week, boom. You guys, like, I feel like jumped up like 3 tiers. Does anything happen, or just did people have light bulbs go off?
Yeah, I'm not sure, man. I know it was a rookie snare line. I thought the quad line and the bass line, they were always very strong. I always felt like we were the kind of section holding them back that summer. But yeah, I mean, maybe it's what you said, like maybe some light bulbs went off, whether it was the finals week magic. But yeah, I don't know. I think I like to think that summer was a slow burn for us. We just kind of, we didn't feel like anxious or anything by the end and like, oh, we better start working hard now. Like it wasn't that. It was like, no, this has been hard all summer, but we've been pretty consistent with our approach, and I think it just finally paid off for us in the end.
You just stayed consistent, and then you peaked at the right time.
Yeah, that's exactly how I would describe that.
Cool.
That was a pretty challenging show too, especially like from a ensemble environmental demand approach.
Oh yeah, like the whole ballad, we became this like it was like a kind of like a 4th of July parade
march. Yeah,
and like we did not stop marching the whole show. Like we marched around the whole field during the time when it was like, oh, now we like don't have to play right now. But
I remember that.
It was very, very exhausting.
I remember my ballads. I was like standing still for like 30 seconds, and then you guys were just like going like around all corners of the football field.
Dude, it was crazy. I remember at one point, like, me and Richard Ramos, it was like I was so winded at this one point in the show. I asked him to like split the Dutch with me because I was out of breath. So we were going back and forth like dup, 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 just going because we had to keep time. But I was spent.
I love that.
Yeah.
I remember, yeah.
One of the many times I'm sure drummers have wanted to tackle a drill writer or a show designer.
Yeah, I was there for kind of the kind of start of that whole era that's there now, the whole John Vanderkoff and Jim Moore. So
yeah, because the writer we had for the drill in 12 was just a 1-year guy. He only wrote the drill 1 year, and it was not – our drill was cake. Yeah. At least the drumlines drill in 12 was really easy. But
I like to think Jim Moore followed me from Crown to Bluecoats.
oh man,
I love that.
all right. Well, we just crossed the hour mark. Does anybody have anything else they want to bring up and discuss before we wrap this up?
I don't know. I just want to thank you guys. It was really cool being on the show, and obviously we're friends, so it was just good talking to you guys again.
Yeah,
if you want to learn more from Frankie, go audition at Crown this I guess November. Oh my gosh, it's like right around the corner.
I know, it's already mid-October, man. Camps are starting real soon.
Yeah, so if you're a BOA, you'll see me with the William Mason Marching Band. We're very strong this year. Come out to WGI. I'll be with Connexus Percussion. This is our second year in independent world. Looking to make finals and really get ourselves out there. And obviously we got Crown auditions coming up in November. So go to the website and register and learn the packet and come on out and see what it is.
Frankie won't be hard to miss. He's got the long, luxurious locks of hair flowing.
Yeah, I forgot your hair is super long now.
Oh, yeah. Very long.
Dude, rocking it.
All right. Well, thanks, everybody, for hanging out. As always, again, subscribe to the YouTube channel, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook. And like the video, drop any comments. Whatever questions you want to ask is totally fine. And we will just see everybody next time, probably with another guest.
Peace.
Adios, everybody.